We head now to Woodville, where Keith and Kim Riley run their dairy operation. The Rileys won 2 Balanced Farm Environment Awards for the Manawatu region in 2009. They're equity partners with John and Margaret Young.
We're farming 300 hectares of basically flat land here in Woodville, 700 cows. The support stock, 1 and 2 year old stock, are on as well, so a nice little unit. We converted it 11 seasons ago from sheep, beef and cropping. So that's, I think it's sort of always been a farm that was cautiously approached for livestock because of its flooding potential. It's an emotive subject right through the industry, in fact, globally, I guess, now, the impact on the environment, but dairying's having its day in the focus, and it's not all bad. I think as dairy farmers, we've moved a long way from our forefathers' practices, which was fine on the day, but we've come a long way from that now. So some exciting stuff that's happening in as far as environmental impacts, that we're mitigating, minimising those in our business. Well, Kim and I and our partners have always been conscious of our impact, I guess, on the environment, but it's common sense for the business as well. We're turning effluent, which I guess we used to deem as a waste product that the quick as you could get rid of it, like our forefathers poured it into the closest creek, which was quite efficient for time, but not very good environment. So now we see it as a resource. A couple of years ago, it became obvious that we wanted to be able to store our effluent so we'd be able to manage our time better, and the nutrients that we were, or the dairy shed effluent that we were producing. So we developed the 100-day storage, which gave us plenty of time between rain events to store water and then spread it out when it was dry. Well, we met an engineer from Lower Hutt, Stuart Reid, designed this stirrer to go around the circular pond here. It keeps the whole product in suspension so we can spread it at any time we want to, and it's a consistent brew going out onto the paddock. Stuart Reid had the problem of convincing me as a farmer that we needed 100-day storage. We originally thought 10 days would be fine or something, just to give us a bit of a break. But when we focused on what we're trying to achieve, 100 days storage became a minimum. It was expensive. It was especially expensive when we did it 2 to 3 years ago. We were developing it. But Stuart convinced us that it required the capital to make something that was going to not comply. Our focus was on having something that was really valuable. We could capture a waste, turn it into a valuable resource. Down at one of the tributaries, the Manga Atua, tributary to the Manawatu, and I guess it's a typical example of what we're facing with these tributaries, maintaining the water quality by protecting the soil on the riverbanks. We've been planting willows here. We're quickly realising that there's an ongoing management plan required so that they can achieve what we put them there for, and that's protect the bank of the river, not obstruct the water. So layering and trimming the trees is taking a significant amount of effort to make sure they achieve what we wanted. Up to 10% of this farm is across a creek, and even with the structures that we've got now, still means that the cows cross over their water, and to be able to contain any effluent that gets onto the structure is going to be a real challenge. I think as a community and a whole, we need to review and have a look at what values we've actually got, and is a minimal amount of crossings over the bridge here, say, is it going to impact our water quality beyond what we accept, when down round the corner there could be 500 ducks excreting into the water as well, with E. coli bacteria, for example, in there. So I think in the future we'll come to a place where we accept that there is some cost, but it's acceptable. As we've become more aware of the downstream effect of crossing large numbers of cows over the creeks, we don't want to be part of the damage that they were doing there, so changed our system to suit it. This area is across one of the creeks, so we would have been milking on it last season and the young stock would have been grazing away. This season we've just got the young stock on this area. Avoids the regular crossing of the waterway. We were up to 1,000 cows we were milking, dropped down to 700 cows now, and just about avoiding any crossing of the waterways. the cost of running the system with 700 cows with all the young stock, the support stock on, is the bottom line's looking very similar to when we had 1,000 cows with a lot higher cost structure. The urban-rural gap is increasingly becoming a concern to me because we're having less contact, I guess, and some of the contact we are having is perhaps a bit of misinformation around especially dairy farming. So Kim and I are pretty, I guess, proactive about trying to get the message across that we are working quickly towards ensuring that we're not having a serious negative impact on the environment. We're trying to make sure that we pass on to next generation a resource that's in a better state, if not the same. So, but how we go about it, I think there's some very contrasting views on that, which is a concern.
The Rileys are also well known for their experiences in the flood of 2004 and the subsequent production of a children's book about that called Cow 569.
Back in February 2004, we had a lot of rain. It just rained all that Sunday and all that Sunday night, and we knew then that we'd probably be in trouble because of the amount of water that was coming through the gorge. And so Monday morning went out to get the cows in for milking, and there was water in the paddock, which was very unusual. We'd spent most of the night moving the cows to higher ground, and we were very happy that they were safe and everything would be well. Went out there and it wasn't. The cows just panicked in the dark, and of course 320 odd cows making a lot of noise and water, it just spooked them and they really got quite panicky. And I was in amongst them, unfortunately. After being in the water for about half an hour or so, getting really tired and realised that I wasn't going to be able to swim out because I just wasn't strong enough, as it turned out. 569 was swimming past and she was very tired. She was blowing hard like a horse. She sort of was looking for some dry land herself, and I just managed to lunge for her and grabbed a hold of her neck and went along for the ride. Of course, the media got hold of the story. I think that very next day it was on the news, and then the BBC rang 2 days later. And Random House up in Auckland had sort of been following the story, and they rang and said, you know, this would make a great children's story. It's got animals, it's got the warm fuzzies, it's got the happy ending. What more could you want? You know, the animal's the hero. And so after a bit of toing and throwing, we sort of said, okay, we'll give it a go. And they had an artist, Debbie Hind from Te Amutu. She was already basically lined up, and amazing pictures. And it just happened. It happened within 3 weeks, and it was like, wow, this has been given the tick. And so I had 3 weeks to get the story together, and Debbie had it for another couple of weeks to do her side, and then off to Hong Kong it went, yeah. It was a really exciting time, and it actually took a lot of focus off the hard work and the bad luck story at home, and it was the bright spot on the horizon. And from that we sold 17,000 copies of the first book, and I think within the first week of it going on the shelf it had to have a reprint, and then we did 5 reprints after that, and so it's proven to be a very popular story, which was great. 569's still with us. She doesn't need any more swimming lessons, and nor do I. We've decided we'll stay out of the water.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.